So, Marcus, great to chat today. Our first challenge is going to be trying to do this in 30 minutes, right? So we're going to keep things moving along. A very quick introduction from my side. So I'm Paul McClatchie. I've worked in the recruitment space since 2001, a similar time actually when job boards started. So when I tell my colleagues that, they think I'm totally ancient. I run Engage People. We're a financial and technology recruitment business based in Dublin, about 16 full-time employees and a few people on sort of a part-time basis. Dublin-based, slightly more focused on the permanent side. In Ireland, we have the ERF, which is the Employment Recruitment Federation, similar to the REC. And the last 2 years, we've won the best small agency at that, and we've been nominated to our big awards bashes. So this is at the end of November. Our big awards bash is tomorrow night. So let's see what the coming days bring.
Nice.
Over to you, Marcus.
Yes, so I'm Marcus Nanson. I run NRG Resourcing. We're a financial services, specifically mortgage industry recruiters. We've got 7 full-time employees and 3 part-time in the operations admin team. We have been going for 8 years. However, I feel like we've been going for about 2 because it was a lifestyle business before we started taking people on. It was just myself and my wife having a fun lifestyle type business until I realized I didn't want to be on the phone when I was 80 and building a legacy rather than that lifestyle mindset shift. So yeah, like I said, we deal with the majority of the mortgage market. 90% of our business is in London, but we're UK wide.
Cool. Thanks a million for that. That all sounds interesting. I might kick off maybe. Give us your hot tips on the last 12, 18 months. What changes have you seen?
Yeah, so it's been tough, right, in financial services. I think it's the same for a lot of industries. I would shift the kind of the narrative on it in the sense it's been good for us because there's a lot of dead wood in recruitment, right? There's a lot of people that came in when money was easy and it wasn't tough and people didn't know how to actually manage relationships and that kind of thing. So for us as a business, although for an industry, I think it's very difficult. I think for a small business like us, like I've always said to everyone, we've got 10 mouths to feed. We've got 10 families to feed. We're not one of the large organizations that you've got hundreds of thousands to think about. So for us, it's been a really tough year to kind of narrow it down, but at the same time, the positives are it's got rid of a lot of dead wood. The people have had to really concentrate on our processes and really concentrate on our relationships, and I think that's been a massive plus. So positives in that sense. What about yourself, Paul?
Yeah, so like the economy's been okay over here. Couple of different factors. Like we're looking at Ireland, the domestic economy's been good. So we like on the accountancy side, it's industry. So it's lots of different companies obviously hiring the finance space. The banking side and the retail side has definitely contracted a little bit. There's quite a few new fintechs, which have been good for us. I think like the big things is that so I'd say like, probably 18 months ago, the whole hybrid thing was a headache. There was such a divide. The first conversation that every candidate wants to have was, what flexibility existed. And while on some, maybe the US multinationals very strong into offering hybrid working, a lot of Irish companies were like, the opposite. They wanted people at their desk where they could see them. So it was really sort of working through that piece, trying to sort of reason on both sides. I think that's probably.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think that they didn't roll with the hybrid? I mean, I don't think it worked, but why do you think they were so staunch to it?
I think there was a sort of a trust piece, basically. So COVID, obviously, it was pretty strict here, and it's the same as UK. Basically, people couldn't come into the office, and therefore, I think a lot of people got to like that. Some companies probably felt that maybe the leadership were losing their grip a little bit. I think every business, every sector, man, is like totally different. I find it very hard to say like that one size fits all. From our point of view, we're in the office most of the time. It's a commitment that I make when people start with our business, that I'm going to work really hard and getting them up to speed, basically to be around the culture of being with good recruiters. I think to me, it's absolutely essential. But then a lot of, the transport network in Ireland isn't amazing. You have a lot of people who live an hour and a half away from their desk, and therefore there's a big push around that piece. I would say it's calmed down a bit. It's less of the headline conversation that we have with candidates. And then I'd just say in general, like our rates are probably going up. I think that there's definitely, and I find TRN very good for this now, and it's probably building confidence to go to clients now. So we don't really want to be on a PSL with 3 or 4 other companies. We have a goal in 3 years at 75% to be exclusive or retained, probably 50% plus at the moment. And we find that companies, if they're going to like 5 or 6 recruiters and expecting the same thing, we've been less up for that of late, and we've been able to charge higher rates. And it's working pretty well. So I think that's positive.
I think that is what I said before about the positive of the market changing, right? That those kind of 10% recruiters had to leave because they didn't build relationships. They were banging out the low-hanging fruit, which there was none. So when we all could hang our hats on the good solid relationships that we built up, I think they're the ones that it's been detrimental to. So definitely for that kind of thing, like upping our fees, not doing. I mean, we don't have any retained businesses yet, but that's certainly a model we're going to look at in the new year. And that's just through being too busy. It just makes complete sense as it organically moves to that. And we don't tend to work with other recruiters as well, and we sell it very well. That it's really easy for us. That we work with mortgage brokers, so it's an easy one to explain that if I'm giving you a mortgage and it's going to 6 other mortgage brokers, how hard are you going to work on it?
Totally.
They can kind of get that analogy.
And tell us that next 12, 18 months, what do you see coming down the line? Maybe in your own business, and then any changes you see in the sector in general, or what trends do you see?
Yes, apologies, my phone's going off in my ear as well. I think the market's picking up for us, definitely. I think we can see it in the last month of this. That's across the board. Whether that is all industries, I can't speak for every industry, but certainly with finance, now the interest rates have leveled out. People know this is the new normal. It's not so much of a wait and see anymore. I think that's really positive. And I think that the last 12 months is probably hard graft and actually, again, all the relationship management side of things and making sure that we're doing the right thing by everyone. I think that's going to see us in good stead for the next kind of 12 to 18. And hopefully, who knows, we might get a good run at recruitment for a while where there's no major disasters and we can all have a good run at it.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, and just in yours, I mean, any major sort of technology or anything you've utilized? And I know we talk about in TRN, and there's some pieces are more useful than others. Anything you've brought in that you found to be useful? Any tools over the next 18 months or so that you have in mind?
We brought in behavioural testing, which has been a bit of a game changer for us. I mean, we already do video interviews, which was a step up. For us, it was all about thinking about things other people aren't doing. So we want to charge a higher premium, right? And everyone should do the basics of our job. So how do we separate ourselves? So we brought in behavioural testing for the clients, the video interviewing, just so they're getting a lot more bang for their buck when it comes to candidate delivery, which has proven successful, and it helps with retention because we kind of sell it on. We all hire on experience and a stack on behaviour. So why don't we test that first? And I think that's been really helpful. But yeah, that's probably the tech that's been the biggest game changer for us, or will be moving forward. I think it will be adopted by a lot more people. So getting in there as soon as you can is obviously a good thing. What about yourself? What sort of tech? What tech are you?
Like a few different things. So we use Audro on the video interview side. I'd send a lot of captures basically to clients and candidates just at different points of the day or different points of a process. Now we find it sort of good for keeping in touch. I generally work in senior positions. Most of the time, I do sort of a video overview piece when I'm submitting a CV, which we find to be good. That talent dashboard thing we find to be slick enough. I think like the next 18 months for us. So that, like one of the big changes, we receive far fewer applications in general that are relevant, right? So we're like our spend across LinkedIn. The big sites here are Irish Jobs, which I think is owned by it's a Total Jobs basically. So very similar situation whereby where they would have tried to charge twice the price for half the slots basically. So that conversation, as you can imagine, that was probably a hard sell from their side. And indeed, so we've had this goal of like over the next 3 years that we want 50% of our placements to come from our own talent pools. That sounds very ambitious, and it's like what the hell is a talent pool? But we're just building up sort of communication channels. We just want to identify people who are the best of the best in the market. So say if it's in the recently qualified accounting space, you're looking at whatever you want to call them, A players or NPCs is obviously different terminology. And then we've got a good communication channel to engage. Now it's ambitious. There's obviously that noise out there. But that's something we put into play. We run various podcasts, lots of different sort of events and stuff like that. So that would be the plan to build that out. And then there's obviously just I think the market for spec-ins, and I know this is like the oldest trick in the book, but I think it's really your shop window. If you're constantly sharing good profiles. Now, to me, I think it works.
You're showing value, aren't you? You're just showing that you've got intrinsic value to them.
You've got some good to go.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah. I don't know what you think, Marcus. Now, I would only really encourage the guys to do it when there's a relationship in place. I'm not a huge believer of spec and CVs or like obviously quality CVs into people that I haven't really spoken to before. I think that it really works well where there's been an initial conversation. Maybe we've worked on a role with them previously. We've had a conversation with them. And more often than not, if we spec someone in, it opens up engagement. Sometimes they'll say, look, that guy looks brilliant. Let's get him in. or look, not hiring at that level, would love to chat to you about this. So to me, like it's one of these things that probably most of us do, and most of your good recruiters are doing it anyway. But to me, it's a good smart strategy. Maybe Monday mornings, half an hour.
Yeah.
I think it's been useful, and for some of our guys, and we're going to chat about BD and the various functions around that. But I think spec ins are it's a fairly low friction point. It's an easy enough thing.
It's really interesting actually to say that, because I've always done all the BD in our business previously, and we've just taken on a new BD, client relationship managers, we call them. And the difference in specking a CV now in between specking a CV to someone who's had 2 to 6 touch points with us, so jumped an email campaign, added some value already, is absolutely phenomenal. So you're right. I don't think it's just a great door opener, but if it's a 3rd touch point, 4th touch points, we're going add value, look, here's someone, then it's a huge difference. And you can see that in her answer rate. So I absolutely agree. I think the specking is incredible if someone already knows, trusts you, or has had some sort of dealing with you. And that goes in the BD strategy, I think.
Yeah. The other area was sort of, you read a lot about is this area of skills-based hiring, whereby, rather than maybe looking at someone's A levels, what we call the leaving certificate, the degree, that they're just interested in basically, their skills within a specific area, rather than the qualification side. Now, I think initially when people were reading about it, they were sort of confused, thinking like, it doesn't really matter if this person's communication skills or if they're a decent person or not. It's just about their skills. From my understanding now, just having sort of leaned into a little bit, I think the whole personality profile is still evaluated, but it's a funny one. I don't know about your space now, and I know the mortgage broker market, but because the qualifications that are required, I still think that most of these people are probably going to have gone through a similar-ish route, whereby whether it's A levels or university, and then doing their so we have what's called QFA here, basically to be a qualified.
Yeah, so we have CMAP. So to be honest with you, and this isn't a detriment to my clients because I say it to them as well, it's such a low bar that it isn't like an A level uni CMAP.
Yeah.
It's like I've got my CMAP. I did it in 2 weeks in lockdown just to prove that it can be done relatively easy.
Good for you.
And also to have that kind of connection with my clients. But we don't tend to look as much at like education on the side of things for mortgages, because it is very much on that qualification and again their behaviours and how they can act. Because it's still a sales role,
Yeah. Gotcha. And tell us, so if we were looking at, there's a few points of discussion now. So you mentioned with the client relationship piece. What was your journey, Marcus, in that space? Is this that Marcus gets to go home? Because there's a saying, as in, if you're responsible for everything, then you don't get to go home. And like a lot of businesses, the founder is the main BD guy or gal. So you're thinking to yourself, look, Marcus wants to go home at some point. So you
something along those lines, or Marcus wants to exit at some point. But because I've done it forever. I've done this for so long. It's just become relatively easy. So we've got great operations managers. We sit down and we work out processes of candidate delivery and how we can increase it and that kind of thing. And actually, there's no process to what I do. I've got podcasts that I'm very lucky that mortgage brokers listen to, and that attracts good kind of a lead magnet. We've got a few lead magnets that I can add value to, but mine's just time in the game, really. If I'm on it, I mean, it's probably down my skill set a bit, but you know what I mean. It's just I'm doing it a long time. So actually, what was really important, I couldn't map that out. So to get a new BD person in and actually map that out as to the full process of what we do to make a good business development person, I think was really important for the business to grow later. Because mine couldn't be copied unless you'd been doing it a long time. Does that make sense? It really helped with the process side of things. We weren't desperate for a new business or anything like that, but actually to grow the business, that you can't be just evolved around me, and it can't, and there has to be some sort of strategy behind it. And mine wasn't, if I'm honest. So as successful as it was, I feed kind of 5 or 6 candidate delivery people under my business coming in, but it's not something you could scale. So we had to look at the next person coming to scale. Just in regards to your BD strategy, do you 180, 360, or do you?
Yeah, I'll fill you and just ask you on that person. Then, do they have a recruitment background, or were they from outside the sector? Or what was the client relationship manager's background?
They're from recruitment. Yeah, they're from recruitment. Been in it years. Never done financial services. But been in tech. Obviously, tech took a big wallop. So we've got a good couple of recruiters recently, just because there's quality that are actively looking, or the desks weren't as fruitful as they have been. So we took the plunge on a couple of decent hires when we weren't desperate for them because the market wasn't great, but that's going to pay dividends. Right, the first people to jump in, you either reap the benefits or you think first, don't you? So hopefully it's reap the benefits.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on our side, so we do have a dedicated. So in the last sort of 6 months, brought someone in specifically who doesn't do a 360 desk at all. 3 or 4 managers, and then probably another 2, 3 sort of senior recruiters. I would push them quite a bit, Marcus. I think if you're recruiting for positions above like 50 or 60K, I think there's so much opportunity to speak to them. Like, so we call them sort of like a level 1 is like a screening called. Level 2 is you stick around for a little bit longer. How's that?
Yeah,
How's your business going? Tell us 2024. How's business looking for you guys? What are the challenges? And you're looking for a bit of information. The level 3 call is if you're dealing with the CFO, or it could be a finance or a decision maker, it could be an operations director. I find by and large, Marcus, that they're almost expecting you to ask the question about their existing business or a previous business. So I think that to me, it's sort of like the spec-in thing. It's just
yeah,
building in a couple of extra pieces in. So I would push the guys on that. I would say probably similar to yourself in that, I've been at this a long time. You've become very sort of sharp around asking the right questions, looking for introductions. We do have, there's a the chap who works with us, David Pierce, who is he was a former president of the Dublin Chamber of Commerce. He was on the exec in Ulster Bank, which was it's a part of RBS, basically one of the bigger banks here.
yeah.
And he's been very good at that sort of board level, in terms of experienced people, basically of opening doors, and that's worked very well. So do we have a machine sort of on that pathway? And I definitely feel that, we're in a more of a position to sort of scale, but I probably never lose that, that push around the team. Like I feel if there's a manager who's earning at a good level, I think it's part of their responsibility if they really want to grow the division. To me, if they're passive about new business, basically, I just think it's probably just not going to work, over the longer term, because you have to be hungry the whole time, and you can't miss out on opportunities that are right in front of you when you're dealing with senior candidates. That's sort of my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that as well with the candidate delivery team. They're under no illusion, right? We're all in business development, aren't we? Whether it's our title or not, they are everyone we work with at the moment. We're really blessed. We don't have a junior team, so everyone's pretty senior. So what that means is that they can all spot opportunities. There's not, it can't just be me and the BD person gunning for that. We're all speaking to managers on a daily basis. So 100%. Although we are 180 in the sense that we're purely BD, and we don't, I don't do interviewing and they don't do business development calls, if you like. But we're all in it, aren't we? We all know. I think that's important, even if you're 160 or 180 or 360, is that everyone buys into the thing we have to do to grow the business is to pick up more business. So I think that's important.
And tell me this, right? So obviously you got your podcast. Sounds good. What do you, when if I was to ask the question about how you guys separate yourself from the crowd, which is not easy in any sort of services. So people might say in the finance world, well, what is the difference between KPMG and EY? And it's there might be sort of small piece, but by and large, people would view them sort of similar enough. But you guys have invested in marketing?
We invest heavily. Do you know what? Someone came to me a couple of years ago. One of my best clients, and their marketing is sensational. They're probably the best ultra high net worth brokerage in London. And he said to me, "You're not a recruitment company. You're a marketing company who does recruitment." And he said, much the same as, we're not a brokerage, we're a marketing company that sells mortgages. And that flipped my whole mindset on it, because actually we're very good at what we do, but at the same time, someone can easily copy the basics of recruitment, right? But what they can't do is get that marketing in, getting in front of everyone for us to be the go-to people is really all we're aiming at. So we've done things like we've written ebook. I've written a couple of ebooks just to add value about how to retain 100% of the staff you want to keep, and just making sure we're adding value all the time. Obviously, the podcast gets cut up into marketing, but any way we can think of getting in front of our clients. So the most important thing is touch points, because it's not one bit of amazing marketing; it's 10 bits of good marketing in it. Yeah. So I think that does separate us. I think sometimes recruitment as an industry is a bit lost with the marketing. When we're like. We know we've got to do it, but we don't really, because everyone, we're old school, everyone bangs on the phone, that kind of thing. But I can't speak to a Wembley Arena size place of mortgage brokers. Like, no one cares enough about what I say. I can write something online and I can add value that way, and that's how many people get to see it. So I think that completely flips on its head for us in regards to marketing. That's the most important thing for us, because everything else can be copied. But whilst you're thinking about getting ahead of everyone else by getting in front of them, in front of the clients, then I just think it puts you so far further up the chain. I want people to think of us when they think about mortgage jobs. I want them to think of us. So constantly, we're always trying to think of the marketing that benefits that.
Yeah. And do you dedicate time each week, Marcus, to your content and what you post, or what's your own strategy? Because it is one of these things. Typically, when I speak to recruiters really at all levels as well as business owners, it's sometimes a real nice to have, but then it gets kicked down the road for other stuff. How do you manage it that you're consistent?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's not nice to have to me. Like 90% of my business comes from social media, so I don't have to make cold calls and that kind of thing. We're very blessed in that side, but
Yeah.
that is because of a strategic. Like mortgage brokers say to me, "I see you everywhere," and I say to them, "It's not an accident. Like
Yeah.
this is exactly what I want." So I think the easiest thing to do if people aren't doing it is we get to speak to people that have a problem every day.
Yeah.
So talk about that problem and how you solve it. And
Yeah.
that's our kind of strategy. And make sure it's pointed at. I don't understand recruiters that talk about recruitment. Like my people don't care what I do for a living. They care about how I can solve their problem.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important when you're all your marketing, all your social media has to be pointed at your clients, what their pain points are, and how you can make it better for them. Because and that's the sole purpose of it.
Yeah. So we and probably would have raised. I think my like sixth or seventh hire was a marketing professional, basically to bring someone in around the content side, and like you say, so combination of really having a strong sort of presence across LinkedIn. We have an email tracker basically. So we've four now. So one for accountancy, another one for the retail banking side, another one for financial service, another one for insurance. And it's similar to that now. We just need to keep getting better and better. I think we're really getting to that point, Marcus, like you say, about solving problems rather than being like, there was an element of me chatting about me or one of the guys. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Each of the guys do it. And at the end of the day, probably a lot of people don't care. They want to hear about how these problems are going to be solved. I think like there's one or two people have come into the team over recent years and they've just been all over. And to them, it's like totally obvious. Well, this is going to be the quickest way for me to build a brand and a network in this space. And I think it's worked very, very well. So yeah, I would be on the same boat. There's always the piece, and I probably give like our marketing. So Aidan, and he's one or two people that sort of work with him, and I probably give him a hard time 24/7 because the metrics piece, and because you and I are like used to getting deals on the board basically, and that's the currency that we value. But I think so. We had a call recently, and maybe they say this to everyone, but it was our sort of LinkedIn account director, and she was saying, look, when it comes to branding, that she would point other companies in our direction for our size, which I took as a compliment. I'm always want us, I always want us to be to have more tangible outcomes. And I'm inspired actually by what you've mentioned there, that you would see it as being an absolutely critical part of your week rather than being a nice to have.
Oh yeah, we had the same conversation with Nads, my BDM person. He said, "I've come here and it was like it's an add-on. Like I had to do it because I knew it was part of what I had to do." Now she sees it as a big part of her job.
Yeah.
Because you can't reach that many people on a phone call. You physically can't, and you can't add value. You can't. I think that with the podcasts and videos and that kind of thing, the main barrier we've always had, right, is recruiters calling up companies and no one knows who you are. It's the trust barrier. You're saying. As Dodgy Days Recruitment, it's just called up and offered 10%. Like, it's impossible to change that on a phone call. If they've seen you already, you'd be surprised how many Zoom calls are going. They go, "Oh, it feels like I'm on your podcast." And that's, I think, in all honesty, it's imposter syndrome. It feels weird that anyone listens to it. But for someone to say that, I know you've broken down the trust barrier. They've contacted you. They already know your face. They know how you speak. As long as you're authentic every time you speak, you can't be something different when you're on social media. But yeah, it was a massive game changer for us.
Yeah. So we chat maybe about one of the questions around will technology replace recruiters? So I'm going to give you my opinion on this. So I mentioned when I first started out, so the job boards were coming in and people were like, "Oh, geez, that could be the end of agencies." And then when LinkedIn was coming in, people were like, "Oh, geez, so that's going to be like to me, those sort of moments of truth and touch points, the value add we had, like I think if anything, would just it's and look, I'm obviously totally biased because I run a recruiting business, so obviously I'm going to be selling the story. Do I think like the candidate screening could be done? I think maybe at a basic level it can, that there might be sort of Q&A, and I think artificial intelligence might be useful from that point of view. But I think even in a screening call, like there's so many variables of different pieces that you're discussing, pushing, probing, and that it requires a level of assertiveness for us to get underneath it. And there's so many deals that I would see happening on a daily basis. They just wouldn't happen without our involvement. We're managing different
100%.
personalities, managing different processes. I mentioned last night, it was at an event and there was some solicitors there, and they would be, maybe concerned about, because I do think from a contracts perspective that ChatGPT is very useful from that point of view. But when it comes to like, a case basically, or someone suing someone else, man, people are going to be on the phone. They want to speak to solicitors. It's just the stakes are way too high. And I would see right from pitching a role to someone, understanding what their challenges are, preparing people for interview. To me, the value that we add in those situations, I think would be hard to match in a sort of artificial format.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think we use AI for the tedious jobs, the jobs that no one sees, all the crap you've got to do in the background that recruiters have to do. So it's cut down on that side of things. But actually, that human interaction, it's a little bit like for our clients, say for underwriters. So they can use AI to get an underwriting system to say yes or no to something. But actually, there's no vanilla cases anymore. So if it's like a development or whatever it is, there's nothing vanilla, and it's the same for our job. There's no vanilla job. You fit this role. This is perfect. You can't do it. There's too many nuances that I don't think, and some of those are emotionally linked as well. And AI is not good at picking up emotion, right? They can pick up facts on paper, but actually, this is the most emotionally led decision that anyone's going to make in their life, apart from maybe buying their house, or starting a family, etc. Your job is the biggest thing in your life. So there's so many emotional nuances attached to it that I don't think can be picked up by AI. And you're right, in regards to video interviewing, we don't go down a list of questions. We go down rabbit holes that aren't going to be picked up by non-humans because we're like, this is going to help you. If I delve further into this is going to be the difference between you getting the job or not. And I don't think, maybe it can be when we'll be replaced and there'll be two Hoovers chatting to each other next year, but I just can't see it. I can't see it change because it's too much of an emotional purchase, if you like.
Yeah. So, Mark, we'll finish maybe a little bit about mindset. So I'm going to ask you basically, so obviously, as you mentioned, the marketplace has been tighter over the last period of time. When I messaged you this morning, you're in the gym at 5 a.m., so maybe that's your secret. But how do you keep your own sort of state management, and then how do you influence your team from that point of view?
In all honesty, when we talk about mindset for mine, when you talk about being in the gym at 5 in the morning, I have to do all that stuff. I know I could bore you for ages about the things. I'm a bit obsessive about my start in the morning, about how I get up and what I have to do and that kind of thing. So I won't bore you with the whole thing. But if I didn't do that, genuinely my mindset slips. Like if I don't do the 7 things I've got to do first thing in the morning, nothing works. So that's probably just maybe a bit nuts. But in regards to the mindset in a tighter market, I think it has helped that we've got a lot of senior people. I think if you've got a junior market, I do feel for people that have to explain to someone that this is not a tough market, this is just the market, this is just what we've got to work on. But I think mindset wise, a lot of our guys have been through it. They know that this too shall pass. But I think it's just portraying that to everyone as well, just making sure you get across. And also on a working hard side of things, like we have had it relatively easy. So if it takes double the calls to make the same amount of money, make double the calls.
Yeah.
And people will say it's not sustainable, but a tight market isn't forever. So you just have to do it. But if you can get to that side and you get your mindset right that this is what it takes to make money now. If you like it or lump it, sink or swim, but it's too easy to blame the market and go, you look at guys who blame the market and then end up with making less calls. Like, well, that's not the market, that's you. Yeah. So I think it is about just gearing people up to go, look, it's tough, but let's not pretend we're living in a wonderful fantasy world. But at the same time, we can commit to working really, really hard and doing everything we're trying for our customers and making sure we do every relationship and never missing a social media post, stuff like that, just to get through it. So yeah, I think mindset's a massive part to play in that kind of type of market.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, similar. And look, I'm very lucky. There's several people who've worked with us for quite a few years now, and like I would be at saying to the cheese, I'd be something like inspired by them in terms of their commitment and effort, and on the days whereby, that it feels like a bit of a push, basically because they're operating at such a strong level, basically that I think that sort of pulls everyone along. Look, I guess similar, Mark, because I would exercise quite a bit in the morning myself, whether combo going to the gym or cycling to work, and I just think that puts me in a really positive frame of mind every day. I'm very lucky. I always feel excited about, even like with COVID, it was sort of a new challenge, a new opportunity. It's definitely, the sector we're in is tough. There's no question about it. I try and be extremely understanding and empathetic when stuff falls out, whether it's like counter offers happen or the deal doesn't happen at the last minute. I've worked in environments before where it was the opposite, basically, and it was sort of, there was a shame around those things. And then, I think it's just to create a good environment where it's fun, that people enjoy coming into every day, but you have to be able to make decisions. behind closed doors, and to be able to, at the right times. And I think everyone goes through different phases whereby probably 6 months of the year they're at their absolute peak, and there's other times it's nudging people along, and it's just sort of striking the right balance basically from a leadership point of view. I like the TRN sessions, and as a business coach, as a group I'm in, I think it's good to be challenged from our point of view, that you're not in a as a leader in the business that you're like whatever you says goes. I think you have to have other people pushing and challenging a little bit. So I enjoy just speaking to people like yourself, and just getting there.
On that, actually, we talked about this morning about the benefit of having a diverse team. Is that people make the mistake of employing someone who's like them, and then everyone agrees, and then you don't know. Like you just said, then no one's really being held accountable because you've all got the same idea. The benefit of having a diverse team is that you get a little bit of diverse thinking. I think that's really important. Again, it's kind of mindset wise, but like you said, then it keeps you accountable, doesn't it? If everyone just agreed with me, I think every decision I made was amazing, and then then it's my fault that it falls down the pan, and no one would correct me. So I think you got to leave your ego at the door a bit, haven't you? And be able to take some good feedback. But absolutely, I love both. I love speaking to business owners as a rule of thumb, and it's either whether that be recruitment business owners or my team. I think that's it's the bit that I'm passionate about. So I love it.
Cool. Good man, Marcus. So look, a good way to wrap it up, and I think we've delivered on the 30 minutes or there.
Have we actually done it?
Yeah, I think poor Nate and TRM has gone on. No, these two guys are never going to show. So
one's an hour.
Yeah, where's the best place to find you, Marcus? At LinkedIn or?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Marcus Nanson on there, hopefully. So Marcus at NRG Resourcing. What about you?
Yeah, Paul McClatchie on LinkedIn. So listen, buddy, great to chat. I look forward to meeting in person at the next meetup.
Yeah, lovely to meet you.
Cool.
See you later.
So I think that's it there now. So there,
and then we just cut.
Yeah.
Did I bang on for too long?
No. I thought that was really interesting. So hopefully useful content. I might check out your podcast now. Do I just go on to Apple Podcasts and type in
go on Spotify? We're on Spotify and YouTube.
Yeah.
Do you know what the best thing about podcasts, genuinely, lead magnet wise, is the greatest lead magnet I've ever done because of all the marketing we get from it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to say much because you've got an expert talking, and then all of a sudden you're an authority, aren't you? Because you're stood next to an expert talking. And it's great. And I love mortgage. It sounds really sad, but I do love the industry I'm in, so it's really easy to sit and listen.
Yeah. And that sounds really smart. I think we have a podcast which is going well. There's probably just too wide a variety, basically, of people who are involved, or guests. Whereas it sounds to me like you have yours laser focused in on your, on your sector. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing is, it's a great BD tool because I can't phone someone up and ask if they've got any jobs, but I can phone someone up and ask if they want to be on my podcast. Totally. And the ego, whose ego is going to say no, and then they just assume you work together.
Yeah.
It's great. So did you hear my phone going off in that?
No, couldn't hear it. Didn't hear it.
I was going off in my ear. I don't think you've never been connected to my phone either.
Yeah. Not to worry. Cool. Listen, I'm going to the gig in January, Marcus. So my catch up then. Are you going to the meetup in January?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'll see you at the Rumble.
Yeah, sure.